Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Awakening Her podcast. How are you doing today, my friend? We are in December. How did that happen? I am hoping that you are doing well wherever you are, whatever you've got going on, and whatever kind of day it is today, whether it's a good day or a challenging day. I've got you. This is a great episode for you, and I'm just honored to spend this time with you. So welcome back. And if you're new here, hello, hi. My name is Talia Joy. I am a life coach, mentor, self-development, personal transformation meets manifestation, and awakening to your true purpose. Hello, hi. I am so happy that our paths have crossed, and this is a really great episode. And today we are talking about WTF. And for any of you listening around children, I don't know if you are, I may say the F in this episode because, it's me. But we're talking about WTF does it mean to embody your highest self. What does it mean when people say that? We're going to break it down from, of course, the spiritual angle because we can talk about that, but we're actually going to make it really tangible and psychological as well, or meaning talk about it from a psychology perspective, from a manifestation perspective, what it actually means in a way that makes sense so you can walk away understanding it even more, because there's a lot of language about this stuff. And I'm sure that if I asked you, what do you think it means to embody your highest self, you would have an idea of that too. So maybe your idea is similar to mine. Maybe I can add to it, or, it can actually make sense. Hopefully it does by the end of this, because it's very common to hear you just need to embody your highest self. And then we're like, okay, but what does that actually mean? Is it journaling for hours? Is it like the one that magically drinks green juice in the morning, or, the one who never snaps, never spirals, never has, a trigger or whatever? Because we're often sold this Pinterest version, right, of our highest self, who is somehow flawless and perfectly lit and floaty kimono robe and burning sage. And that's awesome. And that may be part of your highest self, of course. But the truth is that your highest self is not just an aesthetic, and it's not just about perfection. It's actually what you're going through. It's actually an identity shift. It's a psychological shift, and also a spiritual shift, and a nervous system shift. And so we're talking about all of that today, because the highest self isn't perfect. That's not what you're expected to do. We can blend that energy into our right now for actual transformation. So I am really excited to jump into that. And before we do, I wanted to let you know I have created something that I'm honestly obsessed with. It's called Microdoses of Magic. It is free. It is a bundle of 3 potent meditations designed to shift your energy. So some of them, most of them, I think 2 of them, they're 5 and 6 minutes, and then 1 is 10 minutes. So it's truly micro doses. There's one for the morning, there's one for a midday reset and grounding, and there's one in your evening to let everything go. We are micro dosing magic into our life. So if you want to jump on that and get it sent straight to your inbox, the link, of course, is below. It's completely free. As I said, I would love for you to try out these meditations and feel the shift, feel the magic in your life. So also I wanted to say, if this podcast has supported you, inspired you, or you're just feeling generous with your fingertips and the like buttons and all the things, it would mean the world to me if you would take a moment to just leave a review on whatever app you're listening. It's a simple way, it's a free way to support the show. And I know it takes your time, and I honor that, and I am truly grateful. It does more than you may know. It pushes the algorithm forward. It helps the show reach people, and it helps me keep the lights on and all that good stuff. So it really does make a difference, and I thank you in advance. And if you're feeling that pull that 2026 is coming and you want to hit it with momentum, you are ready. The identity shifts, the clarity, the action, the transformation. If you're ready for that, I have a few spots left in my Catalyst mentorship, which is a 2-month deep dive container. And it's for the person done circling or in a goo phase, in a patch where you're not quite sure what to do next, how to align it with your purpose, with action, with what you're truly here to do. And you're really ready to move through maybe the same patterns that keep coming up, or the resistance, or just over this patch, because you're doing it anyway. I am ready to support you with guided steps, strategy, energetic alignment, of course, channeled messages constantly from your team, and something that you can actually use, actually implement, so that you are moving forward over those 2 months. I would love to see you in that. The link is below for you to apply because I like to connect first and just make sure that we're on the same page, that we are of like mind, because I honor your time and my time and all of that. So you can check out all the information. If it still feels like a yes, you can apply, and then I'll reach out via email. We can chat, and I'm really excited about that. That is the one-on-one Catalyst mentorship. I have a few spots left already for starting in January 2026. Okay, let's do this. Without any further ado, take a deep breath, because I've been talking a lot. Take a sip of water. Drop your shoulders. All right, let's do this. Okay, so I want to start in a place where we're speaking about identity, and something that most people don't realize or don't maybe fully understand. Your brain has like a little team running in the background, because your brain is doing so much, all the neural pathways and all the activity, everything going on. But there's a system in the background, called the default mode network. And truly, how it was explained to me is it's your identity autopilot. So it's who you think you are, who you comfortably know yourself to be, and who you are familiar with yourself being. It doesn't mean that we love it or hate it or it's good or it's bad. It's not really about that. It's actually more of it just a default identity autopilot. So this part of your brain is staying comfortable and keeping you within the mode of who you've always been. It loves that zone. It loves routine. It loves automatic reactions, decisions, movements. It loves you doing the things that you've always done. So if you've always been a people pleaser, or maybe an overthinker, or maybe someone who is an avoider, hi, that can definitely be me. Or maybe it's more about procrastination, or you think you self-sabotage, you know yourself to be someone who doesn't follow through, or anything like that that's not working for you, your brain has this belief, and it's like, perfect. Let's keep doing that, right? Familiar equals safe. Familiar equals safe. So when you're trying to embody a new identity, or you're trying to change, you're trying to quote unquote become your highest self, or whatever it is, it's literally like hiking through a forest where, I'm getting the metaphor of like hiking through a forest where there's a well-known trail, but you're trying to carve a completely new one. And you've got your arms up because there's like branches hitting you in the face, and then you step on something, and then that's really rocky, and then, oh crap, there's a cliff, and it's not easy. It's way easier to actually go back to the trail and be like, I don't even care that, this is too difficult. And especially the first few steps, the first few kilometers or miles or however far you're going, they're awkward. It's slow. It's annoying because you're tripping and you're getting like, pine cones in your eyeball and whatever. But if you keep taking the new path, if you keep reinforcing a new path, I've used this metaphor, for years in my business about if you pushed a wheelbarrow, very similar. If you pushed a wheelbarrow out to your garden across the grass, the same path every single day, you're going to create a groove. And then one day something comes along and you go just beside the groove. Instead of allowing the wheel to go in the groove, you go right beside it. Literally, gravity and forces are going to want to cause the whole wheelbarrow to dip back into the groove, right? Same if you're on the road and you're very close to a wear in the road, like a groove, your tire kind of wants to go in. So when you're trying to do something new, there is actual scientific resistance that is there at first. It is actually harder at first to do the new action, to think the new thought, to do the, to be the new person, quote unquote. So if you keep taking the path though, just like the wheelbarrow, you will carve a new one. And that is where embodiment starts to come in, like embodying your highest self, embodying your next level. So it's not acting and it's not pretending. You guys have probably heard me say, a lot of people say fake it till you make it. And I like to say be it until you become it. We're going to talk about it in a minute, but the whole vibe of faking it really doesn't work. It doesn't work for your brain. So maybe even someone says, fake being confident for that interview. And yes, if you fake it and then you're like, oh my gosh, okay, well, I didn't die. And then you get the job and then you fake it again. And then you eventually start to feel more confident because it's working. Sure, that could happen, but that is basically embodiment. True faking is not necessary. Saying to yourself, like, I'm so glad I'm so fancy with millions of dollars, like when you don't have it, as if you're acting or pretending, that's not the same vibe. And there's a fine line, which is what we're going to talk about this whole episode. So you're not faking, you're creating a new, well-worn trail in your brain and in your life. You're creating a new vibe. So I've heard people saying it's like future rehearsal. It's like getting good at what you're becoming. And I've done this a lot, like a lot. And I've heard of people doing this where I will actually embody and go like, thank you guys so much. Thank you everybody for coming. And I'll be like, especially you way in the back. I'm so grateful that I get to be on stage with all these wonderful people. And I've done it because I've done it a few times because it feels, even as I'm doing it now, you can probably feel me. It feels so expansive. I'm not faking. I'm not coming up and being like, oh, thanks. My book went #1. Woohoo. Like I'm actually anticipating what is happening in the future and starting to embody it. So when we talk about our highest self, we are starting to become that energy now. We're starting to create a new trail of actions, a new trail of thoughts, energy in your brain and also in your life. So I did have a client recently that was talking about wanting to feel confident and wanting to, they needed the motivation, the willpower. We talked about that in the previous episode. But what we really started talking about and what really made a difference is when she realized she was still identifying as like the new person. So like, who am I to be on stage? Who am I to have a message? I'm young. I don't have much to say. She was more insecure. And that was, again, because of her upbringing. We all have our stuff and we all have the way that has manifested now. But she realized that even the decisions she was making were through that identity. So I just need to feel confident was coming from a feeling of insecurity, rightly so. But what we did is we gently, pivoted her focus. I just heard from friends, pivot. Okay. We pivoted her focus into shifting the identity into, I am someone who is learning to get on stage. I am someone who knows that I was meant to keynote speak. I am someone who is learning to find my voice. So that was a more powerful identity. I am becoming that. And that was an identity that her body and her brain believed, meaning it wasn't like, I'm a millionaire out of nowhere. It was like, no, I'm meant for this and I'm learning to be a powerful speaker. And that did so much more for her confidence than just trying to fake anything. I am someone who gets up there. I am someone who follows through on their dreams. I am someone who's learning to be a speaker. That was so much more powerful. So to remind herself of that, that's not faking. That's reaching for that next level of energy as far as you can reach and still believe it. And seeing yourself do that. And I just got the metaphor in my mind of if an athlete is trying to beat their time, they're going to do their time and then they're going to beat it by like a little bit. And then they're going to beat that by a little bit, right? Typically. So it's like we stretch the boundaries for greatness to become that. And when we stretch the boundaries, we lean into a higher energy and go, how would my highest self act here? And reach for it out of joy, not out of faking, not out of resentment for life, So I really noticed with my client that she started showing up differently. She started, speaking up and pitching her, she started showing up differently in her work, first of all, like having more to say, but then also started pitching her keynote speech and started booking, shows for that or whatever it was, positions, spots, there we go, on stage. And that's the difference is like, she didn't have to push for it. She wanted to become that. So it like puffed her up in that energy, if that makes sense. So I want to talk about for a second why quote unquote acting as if doesn't always work. And even though like one of my favorite teachers, my main guide in my life, Wayne Dyer, talks about acting as if and talking about the wish fulfilled. But the reason why we're doing these WTF episodes is because it's been taken in a weird way. It's been taken in a fluffy way. And then people get frustrated where they're like, I'm just trying to act as if, but like I got a bill in the mail and it was huge, or, something went wrong with my car and like, oh my God, how can I act as if even here? Right. And it's hard in everyday life, but we're breaking it down so it doesn't have to be hard. It's something that we can, infuse into our life. So acting as if doesn't always work because straight up your nervous system starts to call bullshit. Your nervous system goes, I don't believe that, right? Just like we were talking about, like I'm a millionaire when you're overcompensating because you're panicking about a bill like that. Your nervous system's like, dude, no, you're not. We are stressed. What are you talking about? And it rejects the whole thing. So affirmations, if you don't believe them, if they're not within your energetic sphere, they're not going to work. They're actually going to do the opposite. So affirmations themselves aren't good or bad. Well, they're good. But what I mean is it's not that one affirmation is a good one or a bad one. It's does it expand your energy, but not push you over that edge where your nervous system and your mind then start to reject it. So when you just say, I am wealthy, I am confident, but you don't believe it at all, there's not even like a 30% of you that believes it, it will backfire. And in psychology, it's called cognitive dissonance, which I think this stuff is so fascinating. And that's the gap between what you're saying and what you actually believe. And your nervous system will always choose what is true over what like sounds good or like that would be amazing, like being a millionaire. Your nervous system will choose what's true over what like sounds great. So you're embodying your highest self is not fake it till you make it. It's more about alignment, not pushing it to where you have the cognitive dissonance and you're just saying it, but you really don't believe it. So nothing of you actually gets on board. So you keep saying it or keep making a vision board and then it's frustrating in your everyday life. This is because there's that gap. So instead of focusing on faking anything or just assuming the wish fulfilled as like a blanket statement, realize it's more about alignment. Okay, so on a more spiritual side, for any of you that are new here, I am a channel. I'm a spiritual guide as well, helping you to navigate that connection with your team and your soul and your purpose and your highest path and all of that. And I do that through channeling. I am primarily clairaudient when it comes to the channel, but I have most of the clairs for my intuitive abilities. So when I talk about the spiritual layer, the first thing I want to say is this is the information that I get as it occurs to me from my team over time, because we've had so many conversations about how this all works and why we're here and the soul and the human. And I've had so many clients and like asking them endless questions. So when I talk about this stuff, this is how I see it to be. And I also recognize that when we're talking about spirituality and God and the afterlife and like who knows who is actually right. And I wouldn't be naive enough to say this is it and that's it. My intention here as a reflector, as a guide, is to weave in how I see it. And then the parts of you that maybe it resonates with or expands, take it, take it into your life, let it plant a seed, let it fuel a thought, let it expand you. And if anything does not resonate, it's completely fine because who knows at the end of the day, right? So, but what I wanted to say is the spiritual layer is that your highest self isn't just some character. And as I said before, isn't just perfect. Like to be perfect, quote unquote, whatever that even means, is so human. So if your soul was even saying, not that this can happen, but if your soul was like, I am perfect, it would be like, I am love. Not perfect as in like, I go to the gym and I take my supplements and like, I'm this, I make this much money and I'm this weight and I'm this type of person. And like, that is so human. So obviously it doesn't exist. Everything we often make our highest self to be is like some perfect character or a costume or a something that is fictional, I want to say, but it's not that. And it's not even a quote unquote better version of you. It's you in future consciousness or you in expanded consciousness, the consciousness you're growing into. So that version of you may, yes, be more relaxed. They may meditate every day. They may have, more abundance, but it's from alignment and the healing work that you've done that allows you to be more magnetic and more expanded and looking after yourself, having boundaries when needed, being around great people that are healthy for you, feeling healthy, feeling free. It's all of that. That's your highest self. It's not just making money. It's not just being, having this income or being this weight or whatever these things I'm saying. That's just a metric that a human puts on things. So your highest self is expanded consciousness, which is why sometimes your highest self would say, dude, take a rest day. You're exhausted. When your hustly part of your brain is like, no, we got to smash goals and get 10 more calls. And your future self, your higher consciousness is going, you have to learn that balance. You have to take time to rest. Your highest self isn't just masculine energy driving forward, smashing all the goals, smashing all the things. Your higher self, your next level self, however you want to say it, is weaving the two. And it's the part of you that knows you aren't broken, that you're not late, that you're not behind, that you're not too much or not enough. But the highest self is not also some halo-wearing angel. It's your inner spirit. It's your inner expanded consciousness. It's your inner light that has the focus of the highest good of all, which is your highest good in growth and everything else, as well as the highest good of all, because that's the way that spirit thinks from my perspective. So that spiritual layer, when it comes to your soul and all that stuff, is like your highest self is where your soul meets your human, where it's you, but it's just you a little bit more free of what you could call the ego self or the human self or whatever into higher consciousness. And yes, she is, or they are doing tangible things. You have the business, you have the thing, whatever's in your mind's eye. Yes, that's true as well. But it's coming from higher consciousness. It's coming from worthiness. It's coming from awareness and expansion and soul and purpose. No longer from just to hustle or just to try to be perfect, or like it's Wednesday and it's leg day, but like I'm getting sick, so I don't want to do it, but I have to because my app's telling me, and then I got to stick to it. Like all this human stuff, that's not the highest self. That's not the quote unquote best self. The highest self is you with higher consciousness and sometimes a bit of a broader overview of the situation. Whereas often when we're stuck, we're like, what do I do here? And we're like, but this is frustrating and that's frustrating. And we're in our little hole, right? Me too. That's just what humans do. And our highest self may have a higher perspective for what's going on, such as maybe let it go, or this isn't about you. It's something just to grow through, or what's here for me in this. What do I feel is right for me? What is life nudging me to do here? What am I learning through this? That is going to be more the tune of how your highest self will speak to you and offer you guidance or whatever it is. So coming back into what does it actually mean to embody your highest self, it's taking that expanded consciousness and bringing it into what we were talking about the identity work and, the reprogramming of the brain and the neural pathways. So we start asking ourselves, from that higher consciousness, what is something I could do today? And as simple as drinking water or being kind to yourself or taking an action toward your dreams, it becomes light now. Not because you have to, because you're broken, because you're behind. It's like, no, coming from a higher consciousness. And this is what I often say here, like to nourish and nurture yourself into success. Nurture your business into success. Prop it up. Speak kindly to it. Make intelligent decisions. Treat it with respect. Nourish yourself into health, nourish yourself into mental wellness, nourish a relationship, nourish the job. If you think of it like that, that is from a higher consciousness. How can I, move this toward the highest good of all? And then when we're taking action, it feels again like it's coming from something bigger. And sometimes, I've said this a million times on the show, my highest self says like, ooh, let's roast some veggies and, cook some chicken or whatever, super healthy. And let's have our chocolate at night because life's too short to not have chocolate, right? My highest self is saying both. Whereas when I was stuck in an eating disorder for over a decade, there's no world in which I could justify, I'm saying that very lightly, and I want to say quote unquote, but I always say it. I'm trying not to say it as much because it could be a drinking game anyway. But I could never justify chocolate ever because like my highest self doesn't eat sugar. My highest self doesn't eat something that doesn't have a function, but that wasn't true. My highest self believes in my wellness, and sometimes that's resting more, and sometimes that's getting to work and making a checklist and checking it off and being a badass. Other times, me being a badass is saying no to something and having a bath instead. Not saying a client, but meaning like in my life, I might be like, no, I'm not going to overbook myself. I'm going to have an evening where I just relax. And that's what it is to be my highest self that day. So before we start making it even more tangible, I just want to talk again. We've been talking about the dark side of things, and just to bring awareness to it, I feel like the highest self culture can be incredibly toxic because highest self culture is really often perfectionism disguised as spirituality. And for any of you that are kind of type A, any of you that want to do it right and want to do it well, has it not been a crazy journey of trying to be your highest self and then wondering why not, or how do I do, what do they do here and what do they do there, and do they get dessert? And it's almost like constantly looking for it to be right or wrong and trying to be perfect because the highest self, like she's freaking perfect, right? Well, no. We've been talking about this the whole episode. And when you think that your highest self never gets triggered, never has messy days, months, weeks, years, let's be real, you think that she or they never have like a shadow or a deep part of them, an inner child wound come up because they've healed all that stuff, right? Or maybe you think they're always motivated, they're always disciplined, they always make the perfect choice and boom, 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 and moving forward. Then trying to embody that just becomes another way that you punish yourself and that you're hard on yourself. And when we feel out of control, we scramble to like get a checklist, make a plan. That's always the ego. What's the plan? Let's do it. And you map it all out. And then it's like, oh, I didn't do it. And now you're punishing yourself again. So if your highest self, I'm just going to call this out right here. If your highest self shames you, it's not your highest self. That's your ego wearing a halo. That's a great visual. If your highest self shames you or says, oh, you should have gone for that walk, or why aren't you doing this? You're 42, well, you should have your life together, or whatever it is. If your highest self is shaming you in any way, it is not your highest self. Even if it sounds like it's just trying to have you strive for excellence, it's not. Because your highest self is saying you are perfectly on time for the life that you came here to live. And your highest self is guiding you toward positive actions, to be kind to yourself, to give yourself a break, but also to go out and take a walk, to clean up something in your diet or in your life or the media you're consuming and it's been niggling at you and your highest self is going, this isn't good for you. Yes, that's where your highest self comes in, but it's never shame, it's never berating you, and it's never dictating. That's always the ego trying to get in there. Embodiment of your highest self is compassionate. It's gentle. It understands your humanity. That is something that like comes up with clients sometimes. Your soul and your spirit guide team understand that being a human is incredibly messy. And they actually look at you more like, whoa, like look at the strength that she has getting through all that. Or like, wow, life has not been easy, but look at you go. They understand that being human is contrast, and it's up and it's down, it's black and it's white, it's poor and it's rich and it's this and it's that and it's all the things and it's so much. So when you give yourself a break and go, that is you stepping into your highest self. That is you embodying compassion, gentleness, nourishment toward your goals, like lifting yourself up every day. I feel like, I don't know if this is true or not, but I just feel like a world-class champion in the mirror. I'm just going to paint something that I got in my mind right now. They're probably looking in the mirror going like, yes, like you've got this. You're a champion. Yeah, let's do it. not looking in the mirror going, you piece of shit, you're worthless. Like, I just want you to think about that, right? It's like sometimes we have the voice of like, come on, like enough's enough, get going. Yes, sure. But they're not looking in the mirror, calling themselves lazy or a piece of crap. Like that will never, ever work. Saying that they're behind, saying that you're not making the right choices. Like, think about that, right? You'd never do that if you were striving for excellence, but we do it all the time in our minds. So your highest self, embodying your highest self, is giving yourself compassion, is being gentle with yourself, is understanding your humanity the way that even they do. Your higher self, your spirit team, your soul, they understand this is complicated. So let's bring it right back down to the ground, make it tangible before we wrap this all up. Embodying your highest self is really about, on a physical plane, micro decisions. And by the time we get here in the chat, it's amazing because manifestation happens on the physical plane, meaning you physically want money, you physically want to buy that house, you physically want to feel healthier. Manifestation at the very end of the process manifests physically, right? You get the thing, you got the new computer, you meet the person. That's where it actually happens at the end. So, or meaning like the end step is it manifesting physically. So when we bring our highest self-embodiment into the micro decisions and into the physical, things start moving fast because that's where manifestation really happens. It really puts huge momentum into the process. So your identity shifts and you manifest through micro actions, not just giant magical wizard moments where you're completely different. So when you tell the truth instead of people pleasing, or enforce a boundary instead of people pleasing, that's a moment where your future self embodiment is coming forward in micro decisions. You're going, no, you know what? This dynamic or this thing isn't serving anyone anymore. And I can feel myself shrink and I can feel what that causes. And I have something to say, or this is a place where I'm not just going to say yes when I mean no. That is so powerful. So it's micro decisions that are coming from that higher consciousness, higher awareness, and where you want to go, where you are headed energetically. So maybe it's as simple as taking a deep breath instead of reacting and just taking a moment to go like, what does my highest self have to say here? And your highest self might even say like, I know this is frustrating. I know you feel hurt, but let's sleep on it before reacting. Or, stand in your worth, know who you are, but maybe don't retaliate right now. There'll be a nuanced, guidance that comes forward. It's not, again, perfect and all or nothing. It's micro decisions in the moment that are coming from a higher consciousness of where you want to be and who you truly are on a soul level. So maybe another example is putting your phone down and giving yourself an hour or two in the day where you're not scrolling because you've been noticing that it wastes time or it makes you not feel good or whatever, and instead go for a walk. Or maybe it is going for a walk after dinner and just saying to yourself, just 10 minutes. And then maybe sometimes you get out and you're like, oh, this feels so good. These little things. Maybe it's taking one small step towards something you've been avoiding or a big goal you have, knowing that one thing, and then even giving yourself a reward. That's always fun. I do that every time I do my Friday finances or do my taxes. There's always like chocolate included. And anyway, but taking small actions. Maybe it's, spending just 10 minutes in the morning foam rolling, or bringing a foam roller to work, or, doing something for yourself in the day, going to a yoga class on your lunch break or after work. Small steps coming from a higher consciousness and as a rehearsal for your future. Remember, we're talking at the beginning, the paths that we wear. So when you take a deep breath instead of reacting, that might not be the default. So you start to practice that, and you do it because you love yourself. You want to come from this higher place. It's better for you. It's better for the person. Take a deep breath. Let's just sleep on it, okay? That is a new groove. So then the next time you do it, it becomes, okay, yeah, I've done that before and that actually panned out way better. Okay, yeah, you're right. I'm going to do it again. And this is what embodiment of the highest self means. It's not perfect. There's bound to be triggers. There's bound to be stuff, but we cannot always control what happens to us. What we can control is how we react, how we respond. Life lifes us, and it's like a chess move, and then it's now your play. What are you going to do? And these micro actions coming from a higher perspective or a more well-rounded view of the situation or a higher consciousness, that starts to shift your identity. Putting up a boundary instead of people pleasing, done once or twice, and now all of a sudden your identity is starting to shift. You are no longer accepting the things you did. You are no longer staying quiet when you know you want to speak up. So your highest self isn't just the big declarations. It's actually the micro decisions that you repeat until they become normal. And when it comes to manifestation, all that does is expands your energy. All that it does, like it's small. But what I mean is you can do this and start manifesting more money, start manifesting more success. Because as we put those boundaries in, when we start drinking more water and we're starting to go on our walks and we're giving ourselves a phone break for 2 hours in the day and getting out into nature or whatever we're doing, we are changing our vibration. We are changing the trajectory of our life. We are changing who we know ourselves to be. And stay steady on the path and keep those incremental shifts. And pretty soon, saying no when your body or your mind or your nervous system is saying no, it becomes normal. It becomes something where you sometimes have to dig deep, but here we go again. And it doesn't have to be so efforted. It's not going to, your wheelbarrow isn't going to be trying to go into those old grooves forever. It becomes the new normal. And when you start to do this, I get people asking, like, how do I know if it's working or what will I start to feel? Your decisions become more clear, what you know you need to do. So they're not always easier, like I was just saying with the boundaries, but they're clearer. I can't ignore my inner voice any longer. This is what needs to be done. Those niggles now, we don't wait as long until things start crumbling. We start acting on them. We might also stop negotiating our boundaries, right? Instead of like, well, maybe this once, or maybe I'll just, no more. You might start feeling more emotionally neutral about things that used to trigger you, not because you don't care or not because it doesn't suck, but because you're now rooted in a more steady place. You're seeing it from a higher consciousness. So you're like, okay, this is upsetting or this was surprising, but you know what? I'm going to root in, regulate my system, go for a walk, and choose how I'm going to respond. You can put that self-growth work and that healing work into play and go, I can totally see this is triggering something in me, but I'm not going to respond from that. I'm going to take a deep breath, put my phone down, touch a tree, and see what I feel after. Also, as you do this, your intuition then does start to get louder because you actually listen. So I don't mean actually as if you don't. I just mean anytime we start listening more, it gets louder. And the best way I can describe it to you, how I see it, is things manifest as you focus on them. So when you start noticing your intuition, it's almost just like you're putting a magnifying glass or giving it a loudspeaker for what was already there to now present as louder because you're putting your focus on it. Does that make sense? So you'll always get those messages are coming forward, but they're coming forward in such subtle frequencies. I'm just trying to describe how I'm hearing it. It comes forward in such subtle frequencies that as you tune and notice it more, it will definitely come across as louder, stronger, more predominant because you're listening to it. And another thing that starts to happen is you do feel sort of softer or more grounded in your body when it comes to life. You start bouncing back more. You start, knowing how to respond when life throws you sideways because you're not trying to be perfect. You are trying to be of a higher consciousness, more kindness, more love for yourself. That's embodiment. And as we practice that in micro decisions, in micro moments, it creates a true grounding and a steady inner self. And that really does start to change your life. So the last thing I want to say is, you guys have heard me say the quote. I don't even remember who said it. I don't think it was from inside my own head, but I don't know who I can credit it to. But anyways, the quote is, the lighthouse doesn't run around the island looking for boats to save. It just is the light. And that is what it is to embody. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no right or wrong action. You be the light. You be the higher space for yourself. You stand firmly in your own energy, steady, and aiming for things like unbothered, unwavering. It doesn't mean that life is perfect. It means I am learning to be steady within myself. My highest self is encouraging me to look after myself and to, look at this and to ground in here and to take more time in solitude, and I'm feeling better. So I don't have to run around looking for the people to save or the right answer or the wrong answer. How do I be my highest self? It's already in here. It's not out there. You just become it. Micro actions. So, in closing this up, I want you to start to think about your next level identity and who you are stepping into. So, I am becoming the person who honors my intuition or shows up for herself or is in integrity with her highest good. I'm the person who is learning to trust in myself, who is being kinder to myself, who is moving forward toward my dreams. I am the person who chooses how to respond. I am the person that moves in grace and love. I am the person who makes an impact, who shines my light. I am the person who remembers to come home to herself. Just start there. Whatever's coming up for you now, I am the person who, and then start taking micro actions from that energy in your heart every day. And this is the place where no one person can tell you exactly the right action. It's one sip of water. It's one new decision. It's one boundary. It's one truth being said instead of swallowed. It's one yes. It's one no. It's tiny actions that create massive identity shifts. Okay, I think that's all I got. This one was a little bit longer. I hope that this resonated with you. I am rooting you on. Thank you for spending this time with me. And if you want to take this and start applying it now, grab the free bundle. I was just talking about micro doses of magic, and I'll give you 3 press play rituals that are like meditations, one for the morning, one for midday, and one for evening. So you can start bringing them into your life and experiencing more of your higher self and more magic. All right, I'm rooting you on, and I'll see you in the next episode.